Uh, Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October 18th Oregon Transportation Commission meeting. I want to pay particular recognition to two people who are here with us today. Immediate past OTC Chair Tammy Bainey and immediate past Director of the Oregon Department of Transportation, Matt Garrett. We're delighted to have them with us, and we got a chance to catch up with them a little bit last night, so welcome. With that, I will turn it over to the Deputy Director for his report.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, thank you. We have three kind of congratulatory moments here in the Director's report, and I'll walk through them each independently. First, every year we have a fall forum, and it was my first opportunity last week to kind of enter into the fall forum discussion where we bring together leadership as well as, frankly, other members across the agency, and we connect them via Skype and other technology as well to really start talking about next steps moving forward for the agency. It's also an opportunity, though, for us to work through and award our Transportation Excellence Award. So last week we presented the annual Transportation Excellence Awards, to staff members who have made extraordinary achievements for ODOT. This year, 41 recipients were selected from 118 nominations in 5 different categories. These categories include the new Safety Everyday Award, as well as the Bill to Bow Award for Excellence, Diversity, and Inclusion, the Lifetime Career Achievement Award, and the Outstanding Leader Award. I lost my place there for a second. This was the 5th year of the Transportation Excellence Awards, and we are happy to recognize these outstanding leaders in the agency. To see the full list of winners and those that were nominated, they'll appear in next month's Inside ODOT Employee newsletter. The second mention is Sally Ridenour wins the Marsh Award for the Oregon chapter of the Public Relations Society of America. Sally recently won the Marsh Award of the Public Relations Society of America, the nation's leading professional organization serving the communications community. This is a very big award. The Marsh Award honors a lifetime achievement of an outstanding leader in the field of public relations who has significantly demonstrated exceptional professionalism, who has accomplished landmark professional achievements during her career, and who has demonstrated an ongoing commitment to her professional development and the professional development of others. Sally was cited for her leadership, including the award-winning redesign of ODOT's website, her 20-year history of coaching others in strategic communications, her long service supporting the ethical use of public relations to build community relationships, and her work with PRSA. PRSA will present her the award in November. Congratulations to Sally. The last note is one I've mentioned for most recent Director Matthew Garrett. Matthew Garrett receives the Ashto Thomas H. McDonald Memorial Award. I am pleased to let you know that Director Garrett recently was presented the Thomas H. McDonald Memorial Award by the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, or more affectionately known as AASHTO to those of us in the industry. For 62 years, the McDonald Award has been presented to a state transportation professional who has given outstanding service over an extended period of time or has made an exceptional contribution to the art and science of highway engineering. AASHTO recognized Matt for his 22-year Oregon DOT career, including serving as ODOT's director for nearly 14 years. AASHTO also noted his accomplishments, including helping gain approval for the largest transportation funding package in Oregon's history and implementing the first per-mile road usage charge program in the nation. The award is a fitting capstone to the director's service to ODOT and an appropriate recognition for all that he has done for Oregon's transportation system. Congratulations. Mr. Chair, that concludes the director's report for today. You want those? And moving immediately then into the award presentation for the Mary Olson Awards, if I may. So the Mary Olson Award was established in 2014 in memory of our late colleague and Oregon Transportation Commission member. Commissioner Olson brought energy, intellect, and common sense, a straightforward approach that empowered others to advance in their professional journey. She personified the notion that public service is a noble cause. The award seeks to recognize individuals at ODOT that demonstrate the leadership qualities of initiative, innovation, and integrity, and in turn raise the image of the Oregon Department of Transportation. The individuals that I'll speak about today truly embody Commissioner Olson's passion for public service. 2019 was a big year for ODOT and for the commission, with transitions at many levels, as well as the delivery and staffing challenges as we ramp up to deliver House Bill 2017. Today, we honor three very deserving leaders, two of those who have been a steady hand at the wheel and helped steer and navigate the agency through both choppy and calm waters for many years, as well as someone who has quickly stepped up to demonstrate amazing leadership, both from a geographic perspective across the state and helping out in areas where we needed, and multiple roles within the agency. I'll start first with Della Mosier. In a couple months, Della will reach her 10-year mark at ODOT when she made the transition from private sector to public service. What a decade it has been for Della. Her home base has been in Region 4, but she has been leading from that chair and making her impact throughout the state. Della helped lead the innovation of digital design at ODOT and the implementation of 3D technology. She has also fostered a culture that embraces diversity and champions the drive for innovation and effective decision-making. While her can-do spirit and leadership qualities have propelled this agency, it has been her tireless efforts supporting others in the pursuit of solutions that sets her apart. Della will know what I'm saying when I say this, but she has been a one-person strike force. When Region 1 needed help recruiting talent to the agency, she voluntarily deployed to assist as the interim tech center manager during that time of transition, where she recruited a number of new employees, championed new recruitment strategies and tools, and then transitioned over to help the team working on the Rose Quarter project, all while commuting weekly from Central Oregon. Her positive energy, initiative, and drive for innovation are qualities that seem to have an endless supply within Ms. Mosier. Her impact on the agency, her desire to move us forward as a transportation innovator and leader, her work ethic, and her commitment of service are many of the reasons why it is a privilege for me to present Della Mosier with the Mary Olson Award. That's a good idea. Okay. I am being advised to ask the potential recipient to stand as I start through my remarks.
Before you continue, I just want to congratulate Della on behalf of the commission for being everywhere and doing everything.
And can we have her back in Central Oregon soon?
Okay, our next recipient, Commission Chair Tammy Maney. Please stand if you will. Chair Baney served on the Oregon Transportation Commission with distinction for more than 8 years, including more than 4 years as Commission Chair. She has a long and distinguished record of service to her community and to the state of Oregon, including as a Deschutes County Commissioner and President of the Association of Oregon Counties. Her service has contributed to a stronger transportation system in Oregon, improved health care for Oregonians, and better housing in the state. Her leadership was critical to the development, passage, and successful implementation of House Bill 2017. She significantly contributed to the Commission and ODOT, building and maintaining successful partnerships with transportation stakeholders across the state. Tammy has an amazing ability to make us all comfortable and feel heard at the same time. She made it clear to people coming before this body that their voices and views are important to the Commission as you make important decisions about Oregon's transportation system. She is a truly amazing public servant whose dedication and passion for service are unmatched by anyone that I've had the privilege of meeting. Though I only had a short time to work with Chair Baney, even that brief time was a great honor and a privilege, and I'm thankful for that time. I hope we have many more opportunities to continue working with you as you make Oregon a better place. You will always be a part of the ODOT family, and it is my privilege to present you with the Mary Olson Award.
usually goes, move a little bit this one. No, no, me, not you. Okay.
How'd we do?
Broke the camera.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Always checking them out.
Mr. Chair.
I would just add to Chris's comments that Tammy has been set a very high bar as a member of the commission and as chair. I got to work with her the last 2 years of her long tenure on the commission, and she is an exceptional public servant, really endless amounts of effort and commitment, and Oregon's a better place because of Tammy Bainey. So, thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next recipient, and that's an appropriate transition for the words you mentioned about setting a high bar and big shoes to fill. Director Garrett, if you can stand, please. By the way, that's the first time I've ever told him to stand, for the record. Director Garrett worked at ODOT for more than 22 years, including serving as local government liaison, chief of staff, Region 1 manager, and then director. He served as director of ODOT for more than 13 years, a period spanning more than a quarter of ODOT's existence and longer than any other contemporaneous state DOT director. Director Garrett's leadership was critical to development, passage, and successful implementation of House Bill 2017, and it was under his leadership that ODOT evolved from a highway focus to a more multimodal Department of Transportation. More importantly, he is the embodiment of integrity, one of the core values at ODOT. He is a man whose actions and words do not diverge, and in whom you can put complete trust. He taught us all at ODOT how to decisively wrestle with the most complex issues a state agency has to deal with, and at the same time expressed a human vulnerability that made him approachable, regardless of where we sat within the organization. I've long viewed him as a mentor and one that I aspire to grow into one day. He selflessly guided the agency and at times me personally in the direction of improvement and growth, even when I made his life much more difficult at the time. It's an honor and a privilege to call Matt a friend. We at ODOT owe him a great deal for his legacy of service, and it is my privilege to present Director Garrett with the Mary Olson Award. Mr. Chair, that concludes my remarks, and if you have anything that you would like to add as well.
So thank you, Deputy Director. And Matt, just on behalf of all of us who have worked with you over all of the time you have been at ODOT, speaking for not only current members of the department and current members of the commission and all of the people that you have connected with so effectively around the state, from governors to legislators to city council, county commissioners, other elected officials, and a broad array of interest in the state. Congratulations on really an enormous career at ODOT, and I hope you feel the recognition that we all feel toward you. And thank you for all you've done. Okay, thank you very much. And we will understand if you don't want to sit through the entire meeting. You've sat through enough of them. So we are now going to move to public comments. And we have 2 people signed up. If there are others who would like to comment, please let us know and we'll add you to the list. So our first commenter is Bob Courtwright. Bob? But yeah, we also have written testimony from Bob.
Good morning. Chair Van Brocklin, Commissioners, my name is Bob Courtwright from Salem. For those of you who don't know me, I've spent several years working at the state level on transportation planning, implementation, and greenhouse gas emission reduction. I'm here today to emphasize the urgency of the situation and support Governor Brown's direction that you begin immediately to take action to implement the statewide transportation strategy. As Governor Brown says in her letter last month, now is the time. My main point to you today is that we're way behind where we need to be, and we all need to move quickly to get back on course. The good news, as the governor's letter indicates, is there are things that we can do to make real progress to get back on track. More on that in a minute. First, let's be very clear about where we are. Despite the fact that we've been working on this issue for the last 10 years,
Can I get you to just stop for a minute? So we're going to give you this full 3 minutes, Bob. So that's all right. I just don't want you to be hearing a bunch of electronic noise while you're trying to communicate with us. So, all right.
Okay, again, my first point was, despite the fact we've been working on this for about the last 10 years, we're roughly 10 years behind where we need to be to meet our 2050 emission reduction goals. And that's a significant deficit considering there's only 30 years left to get there. You received a report from staff a year and a half ago that said our existing plans and policies will only get us about 1/3 of the way toward meeting those goals. That gap that we face is especially significant in metropolitan areas where most of the emissions come from. Existing adopted metropolitan plans, which extend out to the year 2040, fall way short of where we need to be. Per capita vehicle travel, that's VMT per capita, which is a strong proxy for carbon emissions, those plans estimate will go down about 1 or 2%. That's a fraction of the 20% reduction that the STS says we need to accomplish to meet our emission goals. More daunting is the fact that metropolitan plan updates that are now underway, which extend out to 2045, and which should be charting how we get to a low-carbon future, are effectively in denial about climate change. Again, despite 10 years of effort developing tools and guidelines and providing assistance, none of our metropolitan areas, other than the Portland metropolitan area, are either measuring GHG outcomes of their plans or looking to meet GHG reduction targets. Now, some will suggest, given the governor's direction, that you should wait and take time to sort out where we need to go and take next steps with stakeholders and other agencies. A couple of quick thoughts. First, you've already done extensive coordination and consultation with agencies and stakeholders in developing the STS. It was developed through a multi-year process that included extensive involvement and coordination. It was chaired by the chair of this commission, as well as the chair of the Oregon Environmental Commission, and included the LCDC chair, John Van Landingham. Second, while there are lots of details that need to be addressed in the STS, the broad outlines of what we need to do, especially in metropolitan areas, are abundantly clear. We need to do very different planning to expand transportation options. My letter outlines 6 specific suggestions that build on the recommendations that you received from Governor Brown. The first suggestion is that you ask Director Strickler to designate an STS manager to lead this work. This is going to involve transformational change by the agency. Ultimately, you're going to need something like the Office of Urban Mobility, a separate section to lead this work, but you can jumpstart that effort by starting with a designation of a manager. You have the other, I see my time's up, so I'm going to just let you know that You have in my letter a number of other specific suggestions that build on what you've received from the governor. Thank you for your leadership and look forward to your continued work on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments, and we'll review your written testimony further. So the next commenter is Chris Hagerbommer. Morning, Chris. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we will have our electronics in order before you begin, as we do. Thank you for being here.
Greetings, Chair Van Brocklin, members of the commission, and greetings to our soon-to-be new director, Chris Strickler. So this is actually the last time that I will be addressing you as a commission, and I have been addressing this commission for more than 20 years, so it's kind of bittersweet. I want to actually point out our OEC now has a full-time transportation program director. That's Sarah Wright back there, and so she'll be coming and addressing you in the future. I'm not exactly sure what I'll be doing next, but I think it's just time to move on. However, that does not mean that my passion for reducing greenhouse gas emissions will never fall away, because this is just so important. And in the letter that I provided, the first page really discusses the history of how the Commission and ODOT got to where they are today, the legislation that lays out what needs to happen in this state. And when Bob just talked about the urgency, the state of Oregon has a goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 75% below 1990 levels by 2050. But because the powers that be in Oregon, in the United States, in the world have really not addressed this issue of climate change to the extent that needs to happen, science now tells us, okay, these greenhouse gas emissions have built up in our atmosphere. They last hundreds and hundreds of years. And because we have not done what we need to do, science tells us we now need to get to 100% below by 2050. So the urgency is simply greater. On the bright side, we know that we can make a difference. In the Portland metro area, where they have embedded greenhouse gas emission planning into the transportation and land use planning, we're actually finding that per capita emissions are lower from transportation. We've been able to hold vehicle miles traveled basically at the same level since 2010. There are more people, so there are more emissions, but we've got the per capita down there. So we can do this across the state. And what's unfortunate, so the second page of the testimony, it shows the chart that was in testimony to you from ODOT in May of 2018 that shows under the current trajectory, you're only going to get the state will only get 20% below 1990 levels by 2050. So that is why we're really urging you to immediately, aggressively implement the statewide transportation strategy. So the second and third page of my testimony there really goes through a whole bunch of steps that we think that you can take. And that includes really elevating it to a higher level within the organization and working very closely with your sister agencies, which is what the governor has suggested. So amazingly, I've finished with 2 seconds left. I just want to tell you that it really has been a pleasure working with you all over the years, and I might even miss coming here. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Chris, not only for your testimony today, but your commitment over all of your tenure and taking this very seriously, and appreciate your and Bob's comments. And I also want to say hello to Sarah and welcome her, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you going forward, and I look forward to the conversation we're going to be having, you and Chris and I, coming up soon. So thanks very much. Okay, are there any other people in the room who would like to provide public comment at this time? No? Okay. So with that, I think we're going to move to a group of Region 4 folks who are going to present on three subjects that are decision points for the commission this morning related to funding. And specifically funding in Region 4 along the Highway 97 corridor and the Highway 20 corridor. So, welcome. And please introduce yourself, and let's present on each of these individually, and then we'll take action on them individually. How about that? Okay? And by the way, again, congratulations, Stella, on everything you're doing.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm Gary Farnsworth. I'm the Region 4 manager here out of Bend, and I'll let Bob and Della self-introduce.
Della Mosier, Region 4 Tech Center Manager here in Bend, Oregon.
Robert Townsend, Central Oregon Area Manager.
Bob and I also conferred that given the prestige of Della Mosier this morning, she'll be answering all of your questions. And she'll do a masterful job, no question.
I'll bring
Okay.
my strike force.
Yes, so I am straddled here by two amazing leaders, and glad to be presenting to you this morning. So we have three projects amendments we're looking at, and we'll just walk through them one by one as ordered in the agenda. The first one is we're looking for an amendment to approve advancing right-of-way funds into the program for the US 20 North Corridor project out of essentially what our House Bill 2017 dollars. And the reason why we're asking for this is we have a tremendous opportunity with InfraGrant to deliver on the most important part of the North Corridor project, and do so by acquiring all the property and stay on track with the timeline that Infra has given us. That's the point of this. So we want to move, and we're ready to go, and looking for your help in getting the funding in place. And with that, I'll go ahead and defer questions to the group.
If there are questions of the commission, what I'd like to do is take these one at a time as we talk about them. So if we have questions on this first one, let's get them on the table so our panel can respond to them. Any questions? If not, I'll turn to Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, want to say thank you and congratulations to the team here. This project has been a long time in the making, and our community is so excited that we're actually going to be moving forward. So thank you for your efforts. And I would move to amend the 2018-2021 statewide transportation improvement program to add $22 million to the US 97 and Cooley Road midterm improvements project.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, further discussion, or any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Julie?
I said aye, but. Aye, there.
Okay,
Get too much
approved,
feedback.
at least once.
Thank you. Okay, we're 1 for 3 so far. And on to the next one. This is for an amendment to add Federal Lands Access Program funding to I'll call it a really cool project we're working on right here, right outside the door along US 97 here. And we've had great partnership with Federal Highways, Western Federal Lands, and the FLAP program. This is another great example of funds that we're continuing to implement along this part of the corridor. And this is absolutely about adding and getting to a solid scope of the first phase of this larger project with their help. So we're excited and just again turn it over for questions.
Questions? Commissioner Smith?
I move amending the 2018-2021 statewide transportation improvement program to add $3,637,102 of flap funds to the US 97 South Century to United States Forest Service boundary project.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. One more. Let's cross our fingers, Bob. So this one is for a project that is very near and dear to my heart because of the fatalities we've had at the intersection. It is the #1 priority intersection for safety
in Region 4. And we have an amazing partner in Deschutes County who has stepped up to help us get that thing started as soon as possible into delivery. And we're looking for your support to approve amending the STIP to add this in with the preliminary engineering phase, and then move forward into the next round of the STIP with the rest of the funding that we have going into the draft. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Questions?
I just wanted to thank you yesterday for taking us on the tour and showing us all these projects. For those that weren't with us, you might wonder how we know these projects are worthy of being funded, and thank you. It was very informational, and I wanted to thank you for the time.
And I'll just add to that, for Commissioner Simpson and I, who were unable to be here for the tour yesterday, that we really appreciate your devoting additional time last night to walk us through the projects and answer our questions, and that was really above and beyond. So thank you very much. It's a very exciting time in this corridor, this region, and I would say that what we heard yesterday from the Central Oregon Act and the comments that you made during the meeting yesterday, as well as the conversation we had last night, just reflect a region that is functioning at a very high level in terms of coalescing around priorities in transportation and getting things in place to allow for the kind of success we had on the federal grant, and for the kind of commitment financially and otherwise that the local governments have made, and how well they are working together to really pursue a vision for transportation in the region. It's quite exciting and innovative. So thank you for everything you're doing, and thank you for the time you spent with us last night. It was really, really fantastic.
Thank you. These are exciting times. Both Bob and Della told me how much fun they had yesterday.
I want to second those comments and a couple things. I think this team, it's clearly positioned itself to be, a group that can actually potentially lead on best practices of how you do not only coalition building for community and minimizing and mitigating and preventing impacts, negative impacts as a result of bigger developments, but more importantly, how you can secure 90% of a federal request. Right? And so I just wanted to, back to the first approval that we just had, I definitely want to commend you guys in your efforts, and definitely since it's become clear that the feds are not so engaged on local projects anymore, there was big success there. So commend you for your efforts. I'm looking forward to seeing the benefits as a result of all this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair and Commissioner Brown. And I'll turn to Commissioner Smith on the third item, item D3.
Thank you. I just want to comment that this is a really important safety improvement for our community, and it really brings the rural part of our eastern boundary into our central core in a safe way. And so making sure that we make rural communities safe is important. So I would move to amend the 2018-21 State Transportation Improvement Program to add the US 20th Ward Hamby project, along with $500,000 in funding from Deschutes County.
Second.
Second has been given. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Thank you for bringing these forward, and good luck on this work and all the other things you're involved in.
Thank you, Commission. The relationships are everything to us, including mine with Della. Congratulations. We've had a lot of very difficult but very good and wonderful conversations over the years, and this is exciting for me. Thank you.
Thanks again, and Della, good luck with the frequent flyer miles. Okay. We're going to move on to another decision point, and I am going to recuse myself from participating in the deliberation or vote on this because it involves Facebook, which is a client of my law firm, and so in an abundance of caution, I'm going to declare a potential conflict of interest and not participate, and turn this particular item over to Vice Chair Simpson to manage.
floor is yours.
Yeah. Good morning, Chair Brocklin, Vice Chair Simpson, and the commissioners, and Deputy Director Strickler. I'm Ray Mabey, State Bridge Engineer, but project manager of the effort before you. I wasn't serving in the capacity of Bridge Engineer when I was doing this. I'd like to let the team introduce themselves. These were key people on our negotiation team.
Want to start with me? My name's John McCormick. I'm an attorney in the DOJ in the Business Transactions section of the General Counsel Division.
Art James with the Oregon Innovative Partnership Program, and I'll describe a little bit about that in a bit.
Meg Rao from the Oregon Innovative Partnership Program.
Great, thank you. They are just a fraction of the team that supported this effort. It was definitely a team effort. So we are here to ask for your approval of an agreement between ODOT and MMI, which means Middle Mile Infrastructure. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Facebook. And throughout this discussion, since MMI sounds weird to most people, I will refer to Facebook as a MMI entity. So last year, actually 1 year ago to the month and day, the Commission approved the use of the Oregon Innovative Partnership Program to enter into direct negotiations with Facebook to meet ODOT's transportation needs through a public-private partnership. This partnership focused on an initial concept to construct a broadband network from Chemult to Prineville along US 97 and Oregon 126, which would allow ODOT to connect its existing and future ITS systems, traffic signals, and ODOT offices to improve operational performance and communications. It also helped us prepare for the coming higher bandwidth demands and needs for autonomous vehicles. And lastly, it also would help us harden ODOT's communication infrastructure in Central Oregon in preparation for a Cascadia event. In this exchange, ODOT would receive access to dark or unlit fiber strands along the route in exchange for Facebook's access to ODOT's right-of-way along the very same route, as Facebook desires to connect its data centers in Prineville to a large east-west trunk line running through Chemult. And I'll pause here and have Art provide a short explanation of the Oregon Innovative Partnership Program.
Yes, good morning again. My name is Art James, and I've had the pleasure and honor of managing the Innovative Partnership Program for over 10 years. The legislature created the program, OIPP we refer it to develop public-private partnerships and to maximize entrepreneurship and project development, to expedite project delivery, and to leverage public financing with private resources. And so the project that we're going to be bringing forward to you today is a wonderful example of that program. It's basically an alternative procurement and contracting mechanism that ODOT can use for projects that can't be reached in a different fashion. And the statute that governs the program defines a transportation project as any proposed or existing undertaking that facilitates any mode of transportation. So it's extremely broad in its application, and I'll give you some examples of where we've been able to get to projects through this program that we couldn't otherwise. But it applies to roads, bridges, rails, ports, and in this case, telecommunication. There are three ways that projects can get into the Innovative Partnership Program. One is where we design a procurement and go out to the market and ask who would want to participate in that. We also have the ability to accept unsolicited proposals through the OIPP. And the third way is through direct negotiations, where we ask the commission for authority. As Ray said, we got the authority a year ago to enter into direct negotiations with Facebook on this unique opportunity. It allows private partners to explore with us without having to disclose a lot of information publicly. Proposals can be accepted based on best value as opposed to low bid, which is very advantageous. And the OTC actually has a great deal of oversight in the program because you approve whether or not we enroll a project. Once it's enrolled, we develop that project, and then we bring the final agreement back to you for approval before it can be implemented. In this particular case, with the broadband project, we couldn't have pursued this project without your approval to go into direct negotiations. Major provisions of the program are that it allows for public-private partnerships through negotiated agreements, as opposed to where we define all of the project parameters up front and put it out to a hard bid. It protects proprietary business information. Possibly most importantly, it is exempt from ORS Chapter 279 procurement requirements, which are very appropriate for construction projects and those types of things, but it gives us, ODOT, a lot of flexibility for project development and project implementation on kind of special types of projects. Just to give you an idea of some of the previous projects that you'll be hearing about, the initial project that was enrolled for electric vehicle charging stations around the state, I brought that to the commission 10 years ago, and it was championed very much by the late commission chair, Gail Ackerman. That project resulted in 44 DC fast charge stations installed all over the state and won the 2015 Environmental Excellence Project of the Year Award from Federal Highway Administration. So it was a great big deal, and you're going to hear more about that in a few minutes. Back in August, you gave approval for a project to replace highway lighting in Region 1. That was a project that was developed through this office. Took 2 years to get it to the contract that you approved in August, but it's going to be an amazing project that's going to pay for itself. It's going to improve highway safety. It's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Thank you for approval of that construction contract, because I think it's going to be a model that can be repeated statewide. So we had this opportunity come forward to us from Facebook to do the broadband connectivity project, and Ray is going to go into the specifics of that. We have a representative from Facebook here today if you would like to ask any questions or whatnot, but we just wanted to sort of display the partnership, the importance of the public-private partnership in this endeavor, and we believe that it's going to lower our costs and improve broadband communications for our purposes for decades to come. This will be my last appearance before this body as well. I'm retiring, and I wanted to introduce Meg Rao. She will be taking over the management of the Office of Innovative Partnerships in the future, and I hope that she can bring many more successful projects to you.
Very good, thank you, Art. With that summary, I'm pleased to say that we've reached agreement with Facebook, however, on a reduced scope, which I'll go over soon. And we are seeking your approval of the final agreement as required under the rules that Art had just gone over. And Art did mention that we have a representative of Facebook here today. She has been our main contact throughout the negotiations, and that's Michelle Kohler. Michelle, thank you. Thanks for being here. It's been a year, and a very fruitful year, as we'll see in a minute. So some of the highlights of the agreement include the things I'll go over soon, but at a high level, the agreement defines the value exchange. Basically, the fiber that ODOT has use of in exchange for Facebook's use of ODOT right-of-way. And it creates a partnership between ODOT and Facebook for the project development and construction, but with some conditions that I'll highlight in a bit. So the scope or length of the route that is included in the final negotiations is from US 31, US 97 junction near Lapine, up 97 to just north of Bend to Cooley Road. That's a significant portion of freeway for us as we have several projects coming on board and existing infrastructure in place. And there is an option in the agreement for Facebook to execute before the end of the year to continue north from Cooley Road along US 97 and then across Oregon 126 to Prineville, which we'd be a part of as well. And for the southern portion that's not in the agreement, Facebook has resourced access otherwise. So general terms in the agreement include, just to give you a picture, a 3 conduit array. And in that, one of those conduits is near approximately 200 fiber strands. And of that 200, in this agreement, ODOT has access to 48, a significant amount. That is not an arbitrary number. That is a typical build for ODOT when we build a broadband infrastructure. But you can have this line, but you need to connect to it. Along this stretch from generally Lapine up to Cooley Road north of Bend, there are 22 access points where we can connect to the infrastructure for existing infrastructure as well as future. If Facebook exercises the option north to Prineville, there are an additional 7 access points that provide for access for ODOT. So that was one of the conduits. One is for maintenance, and the last is for Facebook's future use. So the term of this agreement is 25 years with options to extend. Some other terms that are important to note is that as Facebook actually owns the network, they will provide operation and maintenance through a contractor at no cost to the state, as well as relocation, excuse me, when ODOT has project work that requires relocation, Facebook will relocate the line at their cost as well. As we walked into this venture, we wanted to understand the value exchange better. So we need to ensure that the value of the network services ODOT received was at least equal to the fair market value of the right-of-way. And we needed to do that to keep the highway fund whole. To do so, we hired outside experts to perform a right-of-way appraisal to determine that fair market value. We also conducted an economic evaluation to get a better handle on network build and lease estimates to help understand that value exchange. And these efforts confirmed that the value exchange exceeded the right-of-way fair market value for that initial concept. It's important to note that this value exchange will need to be validated for the final alignment of the project on the negotiated route. But we have every reason to believe that the value ratio will remain very close to the same. I mentioned some project contingencies. I won't go into those in depth. They are in the contract, but they are typical stage gates for most projects, go, no-go points. A couple to note would be, and there would be successful permitting. This route does go over other federal lands, the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Forest Service. We'll need special use permits from them. We'll also have to go through the NEPA process on this project. Phil's back in the room. So Division Administrator Phil Disler from Federal Highway Administration. Federal Highway has offered to be the lead agency for NEPA, and we're undergoing those discussions. And I'd like to say and thank Phil for his partnership throughout this process. His team and a broader team in Federal Highway has been very supportive. And so assuming permitting goes smoothly through this project, Facebook anticipates construction complete by mid-2021. That gives you a time frame. So again, we're here to request the Commission's approval of this unique opportunity for ODOT to obtain access to dark fiber while creatively financing the capital construction costs through the public-private partnership. And I guess it's important to note as well that ODOT is only one of a handful of state DOTs that is actively seizing opportunities like this. So we are one of the few in the tip of the spear.
Great. Well, thank you for the update. I think obviously this is the beginning of something significantly transformational for the future of technology in our transportation system. So it's going to be, I guess it's going to be a good learning lesson for us through this process to see how else we can roll out other fiber optic options throughout the rest of our state and to try to electrify and modernize our transportation system and prepare for the future, and to allude to some of the things that were talked about earlier by Chris and Bob, minimize some of our greenhouse gas emissions. With that, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I'm really looking forward to the Region 4 a team coming up with some creative projects on how to use this new fiber, so I'm sure we'll have more to come. And I would move to approve a public-private partnership to place fiber optic cable in state highway right-of-way under the authority of the Oregon Innovative Partnerships Program.
Any further discussion?
I'll
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I'm abstaining.
Chair Van Brocken's abstaining. With that, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you, Vice Chair and members of the commission. So we will now move on to the next item, which is the reaffirmation of the West Coast Electric Highway Project, which is a critical project. And I just want to preface Travis Brower and others' comments by saying that this is one action we can be taking that will contribute to reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and electrification is a very important element of that effort. So I'm very excited to see this on the agenda, and I think it's an important step forward.
Chair Van Brocklin, members of the commission, for the record, I'm Travis Brower, the Assistant Director, and I'm mainly up here today just as we jokingly say for the eye candy effect of just being here. But actually, the main reason I was here is I wanted to thank Art James for his decade of service within this program. Art really was the father of the West Coast Electric Highway. It was his concept. It was he who worked with the governor's office originally to find the funding. We worked very closely together on securing federal funding, working through the delivery process. And so I am absolutely confident that without Art, we would not have been able to take this important step forward that has really been critical to electrification of the transportation system. So as Art noted, he is going to be exiting the building by the end of this month. He has done great things for the state on this and other projects, and I'm really grateful for his service and what he has done to help us with this decarbonization of the transportation system. I'm happy to have Meg here to take over and carry that flag forward. There are a lot of great opportunities where we've been able to use this Innovative Partnerships Program authority for creative outside-of-the-box projects that might otherwise be very difficult in this context. As one reminder piece for you, the commission back in August approved $3.5 million for the recapitalization of the West Coast Electric Highway. This is a really important step because, for a couple different reasons. First, obviously it is an important GHG emissions reduction activity, and there was significant interest from Governor Brown and direction from her to ODOT and to the commission to keep this asset running. Our initial construction of this network in conjunction with a private sector partner has essentially fully depreciated. The equipment's now old. In fact, the technology is such that it only uses one of the two charging protocols. So for those of us, myself included, who have bought a Chevy Bolt electric vehicle, you cannot use the West Coast Electric Highway. There is a new, what's called the CCS charging protocol, and our stations only have the older CHAdeMO system. So CCS is becoming increasingly prevalent, and we need to replace all of these with new equipment that includes both of those. And then as part of that recapitalization, we build in the ongoing operations and maintenance by a private sector party, because as you can imagine, it is not within ODOT's core competence to actually go run on our own a charging network. So that's why we think that this tool of the OIPP is an incredibly useful tool to be able to engage with the private sector in that way. And while we do have more flexibility in the procurement aspects, we do have higher levels of transparency and accountability, and hence coming to you. This is one where when we looked at this, you had already enrolled the West Coast Electric Highway in the OIPP program, but we thought it would be a good, before we move forward on another contract, that we come back to reaffirm that action from the past. So with that, I will just note this is a very important project. I am looking forward to it being completed in operation so I can start driving all around the state in my Bolt, as many other EV owners are as well. And again, it's a very important part of our overall GHG reduction strategy. So with that, I will stop blabbering and turn it over to Art and Meg to carry this home.
Real fast, Travis, do you think there's maybe in the near future we can have an agenda item to just do a little bit more deeper dive on OIPP?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think it's something that could be really transformational for our work going forward.
Yeah, there have been a lot of opportunities, and we have brought to you, as I think Art mentioned, the connected vehicle infrastructure or ecosystem as one of those potentially transformational efforts. So we have found this has been a good use, and we'd be happy to bring forward, with Art having left the building soon, we'll have Meg come forward and give you a little bit more on this topic.
Cool, thanks.
I want to say thank you to the eye candy in the room for the kudos, and it was really a gratifying project. We were very much on the bleeding edge when we first started because no DOT had ever tried to figure out how to put a DC fast charge network together. It involved 20 different electric utilities, 44 different local governments, regulatory agencies, building codes, outfits, and it's been used. We have been getting data since we turned it on in 2012 on how many connections have been made, how much electricity has been dispensed, and how much fuel has been replaced by that. And the numbers are staggering. The number of vehicle miles driven on all electricity and the greenhouse gases are tremendous. So I'm glad this is going forward and that the equipment can be upgraded and used by Travis.
AKA eye candy. Meg, anything to add?
If there's any questions, we have to answer them.
Okay.
There's lots of war stories about the project.
Well, let's move to questions. Are there questions of the commission? Okay.
One thing I would add, we use the OIPP authority in just slightly different ways. With Facebook, we had someone coming to us for direct negotiations. In this case, what we're really looking to do is use this authority for a more flexible approach to a fairly unique competitive type of procurement. So we have received some feedback from various folks that we want to make sure that this is a form of a competitive procurement, more of a best value as opposed to just a lowest price. But we will be moving forward in that regard, and we'll keep the commission up to date on our progress going forward.
Thank you. I want to, before we take a motion on this action, just thank you, Art, for your work and everything you've done to get this program up and running, and with many successes over time. I think this is a great project to kind of go out on. It's, I think it's, at least in our small community here in our meetings, we have a growing population of electric vehicle owners, and I think that will continue to be the case. I in fact look to be next, so in the coming weeks. So congratulations, and I think without a program like this, it's a disincentive to invest in something that you can't take very far away from the community you're in. So having a system that allows for charging is obviously critical to this being a viable alternative for people to invest in. So congratulations on your career at ODOT. Congratulations on this specific effort and the others you've mentioned this morning. Gail Ackerman was a law partner of mine. I worked closely with her on many projects, and what you just described in terms of her leadership, it's very consistent with the way Gail operated her entire career. Amazing person. So
She was a champion and a mentor for me, and I appreciate the comment.
yeah, and I also want to welcome Meg to the lead role. I know you've been doing a lot of work in this area in your current role, but congratulations on your ascension to the leadership, the chief leadership position in the agency or in the office.
Thank you.
So with that, I would look for a motion on this item.
Chair, I move to reaffirm the West Coast Electric Highway as a transportation project enrolled in the OIPP under ORS 367.800-824.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you all very much. So we'll now move on. We just have having one decision item after the next. So the next decision item is on the approval of a temporary rule related to use of bill of sales as proof of vehicle ownership. And I think Mr. McClellan is here to lead us through a short presentation on this topic. Welcome, Tom.
If the rule change is not approved? Okay, great. I think I've got that worked into my comments, so if I don't, please ask, if you don't feel like I've answered that. So for the record, my name is Tom McClellan. I'm the DMV administrator. And before you today is a temporary rule change that we're putting before you. Most of our administrative rule changes are in your consent calendar, and it's kind of perfunctory, basically. You take care of those. This one, we knew there was some concerns by some auto auctions, so we thought we should put it actually on your agenda and give them an opportunity to provide any public comments that they might have, and to have a more full discussion about the changes that we're proposing.
And Tom, as I remember, the Oregon Administrative Procedures Act, temporary rules are good for 180 days.
Yes, that is true.
And then you either have to adopt a permanent rule or the temporary rule expires and then you have no rule.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I'll just, as long as you're asking process type of questions right now, I'll jump right to that. If this is approved today, we will immediately get started on the permanent rulemaking process, which all the notice is part of that. And in this case, we'll most likely form a rule advisory committee with those businesses and industries that we know that could be affected by this, and come back to you by March of next year with permanent rules. Okay?
Broad notice and opportunity for public comment.
Absolutely.
As part of that process.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So just a little bit of background. I think it's important to note that part of DMV's mission is to protect the financial and ownership interests in vehicles. We collect a lot of money, and we're also around driver safety, but this is kind of a cornerstone type of thing for us, is that protection of financial and ownership in vehicles. And one of the keys to this is to preserve the chain of ownership through verifiable documents and records. So we actually take that very seriously. So, a certificate of title is prima facie evidence of vehicle ownership. As such, it is the primary form of documentation used to transfer ownership. Current Oregon Administrative Rule authorizes DMV, at its discretion, to consider other documents in circumstances where a title is not available. This rule currently specifies that DMV may accept a dismantler or wrecker bill of sale on a vehicle whose title has been surrendered to another jurisdiction, another state DMV. Although the permissive nature of the rule gives DMV the authority to reject these documents today, that has not been our practice. The proposed rule change signals a change in practice and qualifies the sufficiency of a dismantler bill of sale for the purpose of transferring vehicle ownership when the title has been surrendered to another jurisdiction. The rule specifies that a dismantler bill of sale is insufficient proof of ownership if it is, one, not on a controlled form issued by another jurisdiction, contains information that cannot be verified, or does not contain language regarding the truth and accuracy of the information. These are essentially a receipt. It's just handwritten, handed to the person. There's no security on the document, nothing like that. It's not a form issued by another state agency.
And dismantler is, what's the technical meaning of that term?
Or wrecker, wrecking yard, it's companies that are parting out, if you will.
Okay.
Salvaging.
Okay.
Vehicles, they've been identified as totaled, in another jurisdiction. When a title is declared totaled, either the owner or the insurance company surrenders the title to the issuing jurisdiction, and in most states, a salvage title is issued. The salvage title is valid until the vehicle is rebuilt, dismantled, or recovered, and then a regular title is issued. In the past, Oregon DMV has received dismantler bills of sale in lieu of title primarily from Washington, occasionally from Alaska and Hawaii, not too often from Hawaii, I'll tell you that, because these states do not issue salvage titles. To qualify for a new title in Washington, the vehicle must pass a safety inspection. The Washington Dismantler Bill of Sale is intended to be part of Washington's title issuance process for salvage vehicles, but not to enable transfer of ownership in another state. It was never intended for that purpose. Since Oregon does not have resident requirements for titles, so people use the Washington Dismantler Bill of Sale to bypass that state's titling requirements, which include a rigorous safety inspection performed by the Washington State Police. They apply for an Oregon title, which is branded Totaled Reconstructed. That's what it actually shows on the title. With this title, they can apply for a Washington title without submitting to that safety inspection. And Oregon does not have a safety inspection program for titling. A lengthy investigation revealed that from 2011 to 2018, a criminal organization had been submitting fraudulent dismantler bills of sale to obtain Oregon salvage titles. Over 1,000 stolen and cloned vehicles were titled, and many were then transported out of the country. The Washington Department of Licensing has indicated they never intended their dismantler bill of sale to be used, again, to transfer ownership in other states, and they have requested that Oregon stop accepting them as a primary ownership document. Oregon DMV currently receives between 80 to 100 Washington dismantler bills of sale each week. We have no way to verify these documents, so we accept them on face value, inadvertently contributing to the circumvention of a neighboring jurisdiction's laws. So to your question that you posed, 80 to 100 per week, we have no idea how many are actually fraudulent, but there is a risk there that people are purchasing vehicles that maybe were stolen, are not actually the vehicles that they think they are, and they certainly may be unsafe because they have not passed any kind of safety inspection. Does that address that question sufficiently? Auctions can still sell vehicles with a Washington bill of sale, or the auction could title a vehicle in Washington after the vehicle is reconstructed. The vehicle would need a safety inspection with the Washington State Police and provide documentation of the parts and materials used to reconstruct the vehicle. That's largely what they're looking for, is evidence that it's been replaced with suitable parts, equipment. Buyers with the Washington bill of sale as the primary ownership can still title their vehicles in Washington, including Oregon residents can do that. Department of Licensing has assured us that Oregon residents can apply, and the vehicle will need a safety inspection with the Washington State Police and provide the documentation of the parts and materials used to reconstruct the vehicle. That's the process they go through. In 2015, we discontinued acceptance of an acquisition document from California. It's called the Vehicle Vessel Transfer and Reassignment Form. Sounds like a government document, doesn't it? Form 262. It was designed to be used as an odometer disclosure statement, bill of sale, or for appointing a power of attorney. Often prepared by a wrecker or a dismantler, the acquisition number on the form signified that the certificate of title had been surrendered to California DMV. California DMV also never intended this form to be used as an ownership document for the purpose of titling in another state. So we do have precedent for this action before with California. The benefits of not accepting these bills of sale as an ownership document clearly protects the ownership interests of the customer. These documents, when used fraudulently, jeopardize the financial vehicle interests of the buyer, contributes to the safety of consumers by preserving an adjacent jurisdiction safety program, and it significantly reduces a workload that is primarily generated by residents of another jurisdiction. Vehicles really should be titled in Washington, not in Oregon, that are in this condition. We have notified the auto auctions. We sent a couple letters out, September 6th and the 25th. We had originally planned to make this effective October 1st because we felt that this was serious enough that it needed to be stopped as quickly as possible. Because of some delays in getting this to you, we decided to wait until after you had a chance to weigh in. So if you do approve this today, it will take effect Monday, October 21st. This afternoon, a press release will go out, and a notice to our employees about what they can and cannot accept going forward will also go into effect. So we're poised to do that if you do approve this. If you do not approve this today, like I think I said earlier, we will start that formal rulemaking process, and probably will take us 3 months before we come back again with likely something very similar, if not the same proposal. I don't want to presuppose what those public hearings and the input might be, but we feel pretty strongly that we need to do something different here. So at this point, I'd open it up to any questions that you have.
Questions? I think the fact that this is a temporary rule that triggers a process and yet establishes a rule, it's a good approach. So, you know, if we learn through the public process something that informs our thinking and modifies our approach, that's a healthy thing. But in the meantime, not hearing anything that you've said that makes me think not getting a rule in place is superior to getting a rule in place. So I'd favor approving this today.
Okay.
Other comments? Motion?
Do you want? Oops.
Go ahead, Joey.
Okay. So I make a motion to approve a temporary rule revoking the acceptance of a dismantler record bill of sale as proof of vehicle ownership for title and issuance unless certain conditions are met, effective October 21st, 2019.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, Mr. Deputy Director, we move now to the consent calendar. I wanted to make one comment, which I made earlier this morning, that with respect to item 2, I would like the December 16th, 17th meeting to refer to the workshop as a preparatory workshop rather than an annual. So that would be a friendly amendment. And then you've got, I think, my conflicts information on the right-of-way.
Correct. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you. As we dive into the consent calendar, I did want to take one moment and recognize all the accomplishments of the commission today, and many of those partnerships that have come before you wouldn't be possible without our federal partner. And I wanted to recognize Oregon Division Administrator Phil Ditzler, who is in the room today, made the trip over the mountains, and has been instrumental in helping us move these forward. So I wanted to say that up front.
Welcome, Phil. Always good to see you, and thank you for making the trip over.
Okay, jumping into consent calendar, Mr. Chair, I understand that there may be potential conflicts for item 3 in the right-of-way resolution, so I might turn it over to you for a moment regarding that.
Yes, I have 2 potential conflicts of interest and will not be able to vote on 2 matters. One relates to the Hampton Family Trust matter and the other to the David Smith matter. So I will not be participating in those and request that they be segregated out for individual votes respective of the right-of-way proposal.
Great. Given these potential conflicts, let's pull forward file numbers 9457-002-OR 244 Whiskey Creek Culvert Replacement and 9531-002-US 101 Landslide Repair Johnson Creek. Any discussion?
So move.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Pardon?
The consent items that were pulled by Director
Oh,
Strickland.
I approved it. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I abstain.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I'd ask for a motion for the rest of the consent calendar in block. Those being consent items 1, 2, and 4 through 9. Oh, excuse me, before we do that, I would like to ask for a motion on consent calendar item 3, file numbers, the remaining file numbers for consent item 3, excuse me.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes.
Now, if I could ask for a motion for the rest of the consent calendar in block, those being consent items 1, 2, and 4 through 9.
So moved?
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Deputy Director.
Okay, thank you.
Is there further business to come before the commission? Okay. Thank you all very much. It's been a productive meeting. Appreciate your making the trip over, and I think it's been a great meeting. So, and it was really great to see Matt and Tammy here. So I appreciate also Brendan making the trip over. Thank you for being here. With that, we stand adjourned.